Hello everyone, today I'm going to bring you a pointless tutorial on how to make a multimedia jellyfish. For some reason I don't have all of the supplies on screen, but I will have them listed for you. Basically you just need the hook, some pearls, matching thread, and I used milk cotton here. I think it's the equivalent of fingering. Alright, so I'm going to set my shears aside and we're going to get started with the body of the jellyfish. So to get started, we are going to make a magic ring and we are going to make 8 single crochet into this ring. Pull your tail tight, and we are going to be working in rows, not continuously, so you're going to want to join into the first single crochet made with a slip stitch, and then we are going to be chaining 1, and we are going to single crochet and then put an increase into the next stitch. And the reason we're doing this is because if we increase in every stitch here, it won't be a dome shape, it will turn out more like a disc. So it's single crochet and then a single crochet increase all the way around. Okay, so we're going to chain 1, and here we're going to single crochet increase, and then we will start our repeat of 2 single crochet, 1 increase. This is just to stagger our increases so it makes our project more round and less blocky. Chain 1, and now we are going to single crochet 3, and now we are going to put an increase, and we are going to repeat this all the way to the end of the row. So we're going to join, and from here we are going to stagger our increases again. So we're going to be starting off with 2 single crochet, the increase, and then we are going to go into 4 single crochet increase all the way around until there are 2 stitches left. You will single crochet those 2 stitches and then join. We are going to be repeating these rows where we stagger our increases until we hit 8 single crochet increase. I will put the instructions on the screen. Please pause so you can read them and catch yourself up. So I'm not done with my increase rows yet, but right here I decided to stop and see how the flower would be fitting onto the cap. I just buy a bunch of flowers in bulk and I dissect and mutilate them, and I attach them by sewing a pearl to the top of them, but you need to make sure that the pearl is wide enough where the flower won't slip off over the top. Here I was just thinking about what kind of scallop repeat I can use that only takes 10 stitches. I decided to go with a single crochet, half double crochet in the next stitch, a half double crochet in the next stitch. You can see me changing my mind here. A single crochet into the next stitch, and a slip stitch into the next stitch. So repeating that: single crochet, half double crochet into the next stitch, half double crochet into the next stitch, single crochet into the next stitch, slip stitch into the next stitch, and then we will just be repeating this pattern all the way around the cap of the jellyfish. So the very last slip stitch is going to go into the base of the very first single crochet we had made. Cut your tail long enough for you to weave in your ends, and you are done the cap of the jellyfish. I just like to give mine a bit of a stretch to kind of make sure that it's already settled and broken in, because I don't want to be sewing pearls into this just for it to loosen up and make them go a little bit wonky. I'm now gonna try and position my flowers back and sew it on. I'm bringing out my sewing kit because I do sew my pearls on. It's just easier because I don't want to be using yarn to sew on pearls, but also the brand of pearls I do use have very fine holes, so it does require a sewing needle. You can see me unable to find my white thread in here, but that's fine. I have thread all over my apartment and I am going to go grab that. So I found my white thread and I grabbed some of the pearls, but I'm going to be using a larger pearl than these to sew the flowers on to make sure that the petals do not slip off over the pearl. For sewing on my pearl, I am going to get double the length of the thread that I think I am going to be using. I tend to overestimate just to be safe because I'd rather be safe than sorry. So here I'm just threading my needle, and what you're gonna do after you get your thread through the needle is try and bring your needle to the center of your thread. Bring both of your loose ends together and tie a knot maybe 2 inches away from the end of your threads. This just makes sure that we're gonna have enough to grab onto to tie knots once we're done kind of weaving the pearl onto the flower and into the cap of the jellyfish. I recommend for most fake flowers that you use a 6mm to an 8mm pearl to ensure that that flower does not come up off and over that pearl that is meant to tack it to your work. I'm going to be placing my flower over the join seam, and I'm going to do that by putting my needle through, putting the flowers on my needle, and then I am going to add the pearl. Once your pearl is on, you're going to pull your thread through, but not all the way, and you're going to insert your needle back into the hole you just came up from, but a little offset so you're not pulling it straight back out. And then I am going to put my needle through that loop underneath that knot we made. That is just going to help tack it down and make it easier for us to tie our knot and secure the flower and the pearl. If you want, you can go back up through again, go back through that pearl again, and come back down through the cap of the mushroom and then tie your knot. So that will just kind of give it more strength and make it a bit more durable. Now I'm just tying my knot to make sure that everything stays in place. I am going to knot this several times, and I am not going to weave in the ends of this thread. I never do. That is why I always make sure I grab a thread that matches the color of the work I'm sewing to. Now I'm not making this for anyone in particular, so I'm going to be a lazy bean and I am just going to knot this end and then cut the thread off. I went ahead and got a smaller darning needle. I am going to sew that outer bit of tail in because it is on the outside and more visible. And here I decided to not go with light pink pearls because I wanted more contrast with the flower. So I went ahead and went with a more muted red pearl. I know it looks red on screen, but in person, I promise you, it is more of a super deep pink salmon color. I'm going to sew down diagonally with my pearls and kind of keep even spacing as they flare out. Alright, you guys, no lie, I struggled a lot with my placement with the pearls. So I went ahead and I did this off screen so you didn't have to suffer with watching me put all these pearls on, take them back off just to put them back on again in pretty much the same way. I did sew these pearls on the same way I did with the larger one that is holding our flower on. So you can just go ahead and repeat that method with every pearl you want. You do not have to cut your thread and make a knot for every pearl you add on. I did for my first few rows and it just took so much time and wasted so much thread. So I ended up just kind of looping around my thread and using it that way so I didn't have to keep tying knots and cutting it for every single pearl I wanted to place. This is ultimately the layout I came up with. After I placed my initial rows with the red, I went back with the pale pink to kind of add accent pearls. As you see, I did switch up the sizes. I just kind of played around with my pearls a lot. And now I am going to be adding tentacles, just straight ones. Nothing fancy for these. These are just kind of filler tentacles. You can see me trying to decide how I'm going to connect these because I don't want to sew it on. I do just kind of want to crochet it right into the cap since it is white and it will be hard to spot. So I just kind of pick up a chunk and attach it with a slip stitch, and then you can chain this to whatever length you want. I went ahead and only put 2 of these. I do wish I added more, but I didn't want to make this video take forever, and I knew it was already going to take quite a while. I'm just gonna be a lazy bean again and go ahead and sew those tails up against the base of the cap because no one's gonna see it under there, and since it's not a gift, no one's gonna be inspecting my work and judging my sloppy ends. So I went ahead and I grabbed a similar yarn to the color of the pearls that I had added. I am going to throw that in the tentacles for accent to kind of make them pop a little bit more. For the first large tentacle, I chained around 28. You can, again, chain as many as you want. Just make sure that it is longer than those little accent tentacles you put, because when we go back and put the additional stitches up this tentacle, it is going to curl and that will shorten it a little bit. Chain one more stitch than the length you want, and you are going to skip the next stitch. I slip stitch into the next one to kind of give the end of the tentacle a point, and then I am going to put 2 single crochet in each stitch all the way to the top of this chain. I've completed the white portion of this tentacle and cut my thread. Do not cut your thread if you don't want accent colors in your jellyfish, but I do, so I did cut my thread. I'm gonna pull out some of the length so it's easier to work with, and I am going to be making a slip knot on my hook, and I'm going to be joining my slip knot into the first single crochet made after that slip stitch at the bottom of our tentacle. I am going to not work into that space where I joined, and I am going to slip stitch into the stitch after that. My repeat is going to be a single crochet increase and then a single crochet. I am going to work this all the way up to the top of the tentacle, and don't worry if you don't have an even amount of stitches, it does not matter. This is what the tentacle should be looking like. I'm just going to go ahead and check really quick what the length looks like compared to the accent tentacle and see if the proportions look good to the cap. Time to move on to the next tentacle. I'm only going to be making this one in red, and I'm not going to be adding as many rows. That way it is not more significant than the main accent tentacle. We are going to be choosing how many chains we want to make. I went with less than I did for the main accent tentacle. You are then going to chain one more than what you want for your length, slip stitch into the second chain from the hook, and increase in each stitch all the way to the end. Now that the tentacles are all done, I'm just going to be holding them up to the top of the jellyfish. It is up to you to decide if you like the length and how thick they are. If you don't like the way they came out, you are more than welcome to go make your adjustments. I'm going to be connecting these the same way that I connected and started the first tentacles. The only difference is that this time I am not going all the way through the cap because I don't want any yarn to accidentally show through. I just went under a few loops on the underside of the cap. The tentacles are all connected, and you can see that I am struggling to hold onto that cap to pull them down and show their true length. So I think we need to fix that by making a chain so we can add a little loop to the top. Take the same color that you used for your cap. You're going to make a slip knot, and then you're going to watch me struggle to find where I'm going to connect this darn thing. I ultimately just pick up a single crochet stitch close to the very first row we made, and I am going to join with a chain. Sorry, I just gotta adjust my lighting real quick. It's been raining, so clouds keep covering up the sun. Make your chain as long as you think it needs to be. I don't know what your use for the jellyfish is, but I am making mine long enough to hang off of a tiny hand that is on the top of my controller holder on my desk. We are going to be joining the same way we did to start. So pick up a single crochet on the opposite side and slip stitch right through everything. Now I'm going to cut my thread here and I'm going to pull it out. And now I'm going to insert my hook up from the bottom in the same stitch I joined in or one next to it and just pull that thread down through. And once again with the lazy bean method, I'm just going to take both of those ends that I used and I am just going to tie them on the underside of the cap and cut it with no weaving because I don't feel like it. So now that we have our loop, we can easily hang on to the jellyfish, or you can connect it to a key ring if that's what you are deciding to do with this. Next, we are going to be grabbing various pearl sizes so we can string them on as additional tentacles for this multimedia jellyfish. I'm going to not only be using multiple sizes here, but I'm also going to be using a bunch of different colors. By a bunch, I mean white, that pale pink, and that deep, deep salmon color. We're going to be adding our strands of pearls the same way we tie on a singular pearl. You're going to grab the same thread color, realize there's not a lot left, and keep finding bits of tape on it. Once you waste your time pulling all the tape off, you're going to realize that there is not enough thread left on that spool and you're gonna hug it. Thread your needle the same way we did before. Make sure to bring your needle to the center of your thread, bring your two loose ends together, and tie a knot maybe 2 inches from the base so you can get a grip on it when you tie your knots. If you're stupid like me and gonna struggle for 20 minutes to thread your needle, I highly recommend buying a needle threader. They make the process much quicker and it's less embarrassing. Just look how awkward I am pinching that. Once you're done struggling, or not, you're going to pick up the jellyfish cap and we are going to connect it as if we have already threaded on the purl. So you're going to go through a few of the stitches, but not all the way so. And then you're going to loop it up underneath that knot we tied, and that's just going to anchor the thread on. From here, I'm just beading randomly in no particular order. I'm just kind of adding what I think is going to look good together. Small beads against large beads against medium beads. And I'm just going to add in little pops of the colored ones. That way there's not too much and the color is not overpowering. You will notice that I am adding the dark salmon beads a few beads away from the end, and then to end each row I am adding a really small pearl that is nowhere else on the strand. That is just going to add a small little point to the end of each beaded tentacle. Once that tiny bead is on, you are going to skip over it and thread your needle back up through all of the other beads that are on the strand. If you don't know what I'm doing here, clearly you weren't paying attention. At this point, my son decided to be selfish and needed some help with his sippy cup. I apparently put the stopper on backwards, so he couldn't get any juice out of it. Now we're just going to simply repeat the same process over again. I am going to speed through this as I did the first time, but first I'm going to replenish my bead pile and throw several on the floor. Don't forget how we threaded our needle. If you need help on how to thread it again, just rewind the video a little bit and refresh your memory. It wasn't that long ago though, you shouldn't have forgotten. Don't forget to skip that last bead that you had placed on before going back up through the rest of your beads. If you forget, you're just going to pull that thread out of all your beads and you're going to have to do it all over again. Oops, all beans. I know it looks like a corpse, but it wasn't alive to begin with. I'm not really sure why I fondled it for so long, but here's our completed jellyfish. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about this. Originally I was going to use some greens and I was going to sew on some little vine pieces that I have onto the bottom, but I for some reason went with my least favorite colors and I like the way it came out. So this is my video, and I'm going to self-promote if I want to. If you go to TheDearestOfThings over on Shopify, I am currently selling bucket hat kits now. With everything you need to make a bucket hat, there are several different options, and it comes with everything except for the crochet hook. And obviously scissors. Find me on Etsy to get some patterns, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more tutorials. Thank you for watching!